Time out for another edition of Bases and Balls with our good friend Jim Rosenhaus with the Cleveland Guardians here on WAKR, WAKR's YouTube channel, our Facebook page, and of course at WAKR.net. And Rosie, I guess let's go to Wednesday night. That was pretty special. And I heard you on the broadcast say never gets old when Will Wilson made his debut and in his first game smacked a single in the left field. And you, I know, and Hammy, I could tell, pretty darn happy for the young man.
Yeah, kind of a longer road to the major leagues. A former number one draft pick, and just for whatever reason, it had been a struggle, but he made some real gains, and the Guardians acquired him one of those minor deals, Ray, where they claimed him in the Rule 5 draft, the minor league phase, so they didn't have to keep him on the major league roster. They could send him to Columbus at the end of camp. And he went down there and just crushed. He was really swinging the bat well, plays second, third, and short. So he's really valuable in terms of being able to back up all three positions on the infield. Has a great glove, and they really like what they see. And it's always cool when someone makes their debut number one, but then also has some success and they get that first hit out of the way in your first game. That means a lot, I'm sure, to him.
Well, speaking of players on their way back, I've had a few people come up to me and they wanted me to ask you the question on David Fry. It's a guy that kind of we've forgotten about because of the injury and wasn't there in spring training. I don't know when he's coming back. You might have a little bit more of a story on it, but what's the latest on David Fry for all of us?
It's kind of funny, Ray, because he's in the Tommy John club, but he's not a pitcher. But he's out there with Shane Bieber and Trevor Stephan and John Means and some of the other pitchers coming back from Tommy John surgery. A little bit different for him. He's been swinging the bat like they've allowed him to now take regular batting practice and things like that. So, I think it depends because if he were strictly a DH and there was a spot available for that, he might be back a little bit sooner. But I think when he does come back, they're hoping he can at least maybe play a little bit of first and maybe not do catching or the outfield like he did a year ago, but at least contribute a little bit defensively. So that might push him back a little bit. But I don't think it's out of the question to say sometime in June, maybe late June, that he's back. Everything's going well. I do know that. And he started to swing the bat against live pitching, and that's a great sign.
That's a bat certainly we can use, and we'll worry about the at bats on down the line because sometimes these things have a way of working out. But I'm thinking Manzardo, Santana, Fry, all kind of first base DHs, but those things all have a way of working out. Let's go to the outfield right now. Big question marks. Lane's on the disabled list. John Kenzie Noel out there has some struggles right now. Yeah, talk a little bit about center and right field where we are.
Oh, Angel Martinez has taken over center field, no question about that. And he has the chance to play there every day now with Lane Thomas on the injured list. Right field, they're still trying to. I'd say Nolan Jones is going a little bit better than John Kenzie Noel, but neither one is impacting the lineup. I think the way they had hoped so far. I think the at bats are a little bit better for Jones. And I talked to John Kenzie the other day. He's just not playing very much, Ray, and where he's at in his career, he probably needs to, but it's just not available here right now. The Guardians aren't seeing much left-handed pitching, and when it's a right-hander, they want Jones to play. So that's a tricky thing for John Kenzie to navigate. He said he's trying to pretend like he's playing every day, and that's how he prepares, which is probably a good thing. But the reality is you can see it in the at-bats. He's chasing a lot and probably a little bit anxious to try and do some damage when he does get the chance because he knows that it may be a while before he gets another one. So he's not the first to be challenged by lack of playing time as a young player, and he's trying to make the best of a difficult situation for a youngster.
Should we read into it a little bit more or not? Where Emmanuel Clase was given some rest in the closer's role a couple of times this week. And young Mr. Smith came out of the bullpen and did a pretty good job. Give us an update, I guess, is what I'm saying on Emmanuel Clase, who's had some struggles. Maybe he needs a rest. I don't know. What do you know about Emmanuel Clase?
When your first question, should we read into it or not? How's this answered? Not yet, but maybe. Here's the challenge, and Stephen Vogt mentioned it just at the tail end of his pregame chat yesterday, and he talked about it with Tom too on the pregame show, that coming out of Pittsburgh, he had worked 3 days in a row, and then Sunday he threw a ton of pitches just to get the game to another inning, and it was a little bit sore. So they wanted to give him some extra time down. Hence the 2 days in a row where Cade Smith closed the game. And then, of course, on Wednesday, there was no save situation, so it didn't come into play. And now, off day Thursday, it's going to be really nice the way it's setting up. I think you'll see him. If there's a save situation on Friday night, I think you'll see him in there. But Ray, they are concerned a little bit. They're trying to figure out the best way to keep him going. And he's a closer. If you take him out of that role, that can sometimes be really tricky for someone who's used to that. So they're trying to be mindful of that too. And let's face it, I think their best team is with Clase closing and Smith somewhere before that. And once you make that move to Smith at the back end, then who takes his place? So they're mindful of a lot of things. They're working with Clase. There's some concern, but moves wise, nothing yet.
Boston and Minnesota still yet to come
Mhm.
on this homestand, and Boston is playing pretty well. I think second place in the East. Minnesota winning more lately than they did early on in this young baseball season. This is a real good homestand, the longest of the season. Talk about starting tonight, the Boston Red Sox.
He had playing better baseball, and they made some really nice moves in the offseason to upgrade their pitching staff, especially starters. And they have some good young talent too coming through their farm system that's now at the major league level. So they like what's going on there. And the Twins got off to a rough start, but they are starting to turn it around a little bit and play a little bit better baseball. And there still were people who were picking them to win the division during spring training. So the talent's there. They've had some injuries, but they're getting some players back, and there'll be a challenge next week for sure.
All right. Rosie, as always, thanks for making time with us. Should be a great weekend. We'll enjoy all the coverage here as the Guardians take on the Red Sox, and then next week with the Twins. And we'll do bases and balls again next week. Thanks for the time, my friend.
You got it, Ray. Thank you.